Welcome to the Transportation Sales Tax Program, also known as RoadWise. I'm Cheryl Harleston. Today we have a very interesting program for you. We're going to be talking about road systems and how they're being built in this community as a consequence of your transportation sales tax. But just as importantly is that we have learned that a neighbor of ours, a company here that's responsible for various kinds of chemical development, is a part of something they call pervious paving. And other terms you're going to hear. We're going to talk about the many improvements that are occurring right here in Charleston County as it regards road systems that are going to work and are working better for you. We'll do that right now with my special guest, and these gentlemen are engineers unlike any I've ever met before, but they know all about asphalt and warming and hot asphalt and those kinds of things. But we're going to be talking about pervious paving, and that's something that I learned only recently. I'd like you to meet my guest. The gentleman sitting next to me is Dean Fraley, and he is Business Development Manager. And then sitting next to him is Everett Cruz, and he is Director of Research and Development for a company now called MWV Specialty Chemicals. Welcome to our program, gentlemen. It's nice having you here. Boy, have I learned a lot about paving roads, and Charleston County has so many. And as we talked just before the program, the county is now entering into a situation where there are many unpaved roads, dirt roads along our county, in our county, and we're wanting to pave those as well. Mm-hmm. And then we want to manage the road systems that we already have. Maintenance is so important. Mm-hmm. But this company, MWV, has come up with something that is extremely interesting and being used today, and Charleston County has allowed itself to be one of the so-called guinea pigs, if you will, for now, but certainly we're going to be involved in it. It sounds like a long time. Tell me, what is pervious paving? What is warm mix? How do they go together to do, as I just told our audience, and that is to improve the road system, especially when it's rainy?
Well, I think probably the best way to tackle that first question is to talk a little bit about warm mix and what exactly warm mix does and what it is. And Everett's probably a little better apt to handle that question, but just to frame it out in general terms, today, conventionally, we make roads hot mix, aggregate, 95% of the road, 5% asphalt. We make them hot. We make them 300 degrees, 350 degrees, and what happens in that whole process is you actually age the binder. You over-oxidize the binder, which translates into a road that doesn't last as long as it was intentionally designed for. So with warm mix, with the advent of warm mix, and warm mix is a technology that's probably been around 10 years, but it's really starting to catch the mainstream.
So that's the idea, warm mix. And we're going to find out from Everett, what exactly is warm mix, and how does that attribute to better road systems?
Okay. Yeah, well, warm mix, as the name implies, is a differentiated departure from what was the traditional technology used to construct asphalt roads, which was hot. In order to construct an asphalt pavement for the first 100 years of asphalt road construction industry history, those roads had to be constructed under very high temperatures, or with very high temperatures. And that's because the two principal components that go into our asphalt roads are the rocks, which Dean mentioned, what we call aggregate, and asphalt. And asphalt is a very viscous petroleum byproduct.
And by viscous, you mean?
Oh, viscous means honey is viscous. Lava is a viscous fluid. Viscous
heavy.
means resistant to flow.
Okay.
So it's heavy. People use that as part of the descriptive term for viscous. But syrup is viscous. Water is not viscous. So asphalt at room temperature almost looks like a solid. But if you heat it to very high temperatures, the asphalt becomes very fluid, and it can be mixed with rocks. And if that mixture of rocks and asphalt, which is a glue also, it's also a waterproofing agent, if it's maintained hot, then that mixture can be carried out to a job site, laid down, rolled, applied, constructed, compacted, and it will achieve all of the benefits, all of the targeted performance properties that the road engineer is targeting. Like it'll hold the traffic load, it's impermeable, so water won't go through it, but it's all done hot. And when you do something hot, you have to get it hot. And to get it hot, you got to burn a lot of fuel.
That's where the money comes in.
So
As a taxpayer, I'm concerned about spending. We have a transportation sales tax. That's helping us a lot. But then we have to find ways to not only maintain our systems that are already in place, but we've also got to find new things that allow us to do an even better job for the traveling public. And maybe this is the key.
It is.
Is that what it's doing? Is it better for us?
Yes, ma'am, that's exactly right. So basically what happens with a product like, or with a technology like Warm Mix and a product like Evotherm, and that's what we make here at MeadWestvaco, is you're actually replacing thermal energy with chemical energy. And that chemical energy is actually acting right at the interface of the asphalt, cement, and the aggregate. So you're freeing up the hot mix contractors from having to put all that heat into the mix to get the workability and the compaction they need out on the roadway to construct the road.
Where did this chemical mix come from that sounds very important to the entire process? What kind of chemicals are we talking about? If you could name some, or better still, just explain how it works with the aggregate that we've been using already for all of these years.
Yeah, well, the chemistry that MWV developed, which is called Evotherm, as Dean just mentioned, it's based on a part of the chemical science is called surfactant science. And what surfactants are, most commonly people recognize surfactants to be things like the soaps in their house. But MWV used materials, raw materials that actually come from pine trees. We derivatize them, we convert them into a particular kind of chemical structure, and that particular chemical structure, that specific chemical structure, when it's put into the asphalt, allows the contractor to produce his asphaltic mix, the mixture that's going to be used to pave the road. It allows him to produce that mixture at much lower temperatures. And it's a very powerful additive to put into the asphalt. But as Dean was saying, historically, the contractors got everything mixed by using thermal energy. They just heated everything up to very, very high temperatures, and it all mixed. If you go into your house and you have oil in your hands, and you go to get that oil off of your hands, you can put them under the sink and rub like crazy, and eventually you might get that oil off. You can turn hot water on, get a little thermal energy going. That oil will come off a little bit more easily, or you can get a drop of soap from the soap dispenser. So you're using chemical energy, which we design here in our factory, which we developed in our laboratory here where we are today. It's now been scaled up and used globally. But that chemical energy allows us to make that asphalt work at a much lower temperature.
Now, Charleston County has gotten involved with this company and has tried, or there have been several trials, to look at how well this works. So what's the outcome here? And what were you doing during these opportunities you provided the county and they provided you, this company?
Yes, ma'am. Well, the main thing we did was listen. We listened to their needs. And their needs were, we have a budget that's constricted, restrained. We don't have the money that we used to have, so we have to make what we have today go longer. And to do that, it has to last longer. And that's where the Evotherm technology and the warm mix concept, at least the Charleston County folks, came in play. They're like, we can make a road that can last longer, that can save on fuel, that can save on emissions, that could decrease worker exposure, that could potentially result in increased recycled content, which when we make these roads, you have to pull off some of the road and then you replace it. A lot of folks around town will see that. You'll see these milling machines where they actually scrape off 2 inches of the road and then we come back and replace that. Well, that milled up surface can be reused, but right now it can only be reused to a certain extent. If you can make it warm, you can actually increase the amount of recycled content that goes back in the road, which translates into even more savings.
You brought up something very interesting, because it took some of us a minute to understand that, in fact, some of these ingredients that we see in our roadways, in fact, are recycled materials.
That's correct.
And so is it true then that recycled material now has taken on an additive that has been designed by this company, and we have a much better product as a consequence?
Yeah. That's right on 2 counts. We are recycling around the world, and Charleston County included, recycling a lot of our old pavements. because the rocks haven't changed at all. It's the glue, the asphalt, that works for 20 years, but then it loses, like anything that's exposed to the sun for 20 years, it loses its effectiveness. So it's taken up from the road, but it can be reused again. And asphalt, actually, asphalt pavement material is the most recycled material in the United States by mass. So
when we come back from the break, we need to talk a little bit about the various ingredients that goes in, because we talk about aggregate and all of these things that come together to create the asphalt, and then the warmness, the idea that it's warm and it enables you to be much more effective in that way, as opposed to the hot mix that didn't allow us to. But I'm interested in how you came up with all of this. Where did it come from? Was there a need in this county? Was there a need in other parts of the world where you've taken this product? We'll do that in just a second.